Hey guys, we got another good episode for you guys today. We have another special guest coming on with us. We've had a couple guests lately. This is another one we are very happy to have on with us, as we've all been on his podcast, and we're gonna talk about Donovan trade. We haven't got to that yet, so we were gonna talk about that and our opinions of it, and then we were gonna talk about potential opening day roster and who we think could potentially make those spots that are up for battle.
Welcome to Redbirds on the Arch, your home for everything St. Louis Cardinals. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the Busch Stadium crowd, we're bringing you all the latest from the heart of Cardinals Nation. Whether you're talking legendary history, clutch moments, rising stars, or the latest hot streak, if it's Redbirds baseball, we've got it covered. So grab your peanuts and your scorecards. It's time to talk Cardinals baseball.
Welcome to Redbirds on the Arch. We have one of our favorite guys to talk to on Twitter with us. As our guest today is Scott Plaza. Um, he has had all three of us at least once on his podcast, and that's Cardinals on My Time. Um, do you want to give that a shout out, or like you have the ad on you?
Yeah, so I have had all three of you on at multiple points, and then I was on the live stream, I believe the trade deadline live stream with you guys. But TZ, I missed you, so this is my first time on with all three of you, so I'm excited to do that. But yeah, I do Cardinals on my time literally when I feel like it. Love that. So I had Farmhands and Aiden on the other day to break down the trade with a Tampa Bay contributor, Roman Rodriguez. So that was that was fun. Got off the rails a little bit time there, but more consistently, you can find me at Redbird Rants where I'm writing, and then I am on the weekly Redbird Rundown on Sunday nights. We just have a breakdown coming tomorrow at 6 p.m. and then Viva Alberto's as well.
Yeah. So before we get into the whole Donovan trade, I do want to say I'm still upset that you beat me in the trade trivia last year.
TZ, about you saying that you're still bitter about it. Well, like I tell my softball girls, be better, not bitter. So if you don't like it, just do something about it. So be better. But yeah, I'll be happy to come on next time and defend my crown.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back. We'll have to
Yeah,
have more on so more people challenge the
I
crown.
I wrote the questions this year, so I can't answer them.
Mm.
So it'll be all up to all our guests that will be on this year, which hopefully you are one of them. But yeah. So anyways, Donovan trade happened last week. Got another top 100 prospects, a couple outfielders, and a couple uh, comp B picks. How were you feeling about that trade?
So I think it was a trade that at this point in the offseason needed to happen. Once they made the decision with everybody else, with Contreras, with Gray, finally dealing Arenado. It only made sense that Donovan was shipped this offseason. We heard Sanche many times throughout the offseason. Then when how slow the trade was coming through, we're like, okay, so it's only Sanche. And then it started coming out, trickling more and more. So like we talked about earlier in the week, I think it's a phenomenal get. A 5-1 trade for Brendan Donovan, I think at this point is what the team needs. It's unfortunate to see Donovan go, but for where they're going, I'm glad they at least made the decision.
What about you guys? You want to say your take on it?
I'll let Aiden go first. Yeah, Scott pretty much nailed it. It was a deal that needed to happen. Like I mentioned on Scott's podcast, we've kind of been used to John Mozeliak stalling when it comes to trading players who are at their highest value, and getting some kind of return back in exchange to help push the longevity of competing. So it was nice seeing Heim Bloom kind of change that vision. But yeah, I mean, you got some really solid prospects for Brendan Donovan. you got 2 comp picks that were the icing on the cake, and it's a deal that took a long time to make, and a lot of us felt that maybe it wasn't going to happen, but it finally did, and good for Heimblum.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I always enjoy looking back and not having to do as much as I love getting on Scott's podcast. The night of the trade or whatever. Um, I always like taking a few days doing my deeper research versus just my preliminary research, and then really getting that multi-viewed, multi-day research that allows me to really dig into the prospects. And I think after doing the research, I think the deal's even better than I initially thought it was. I think Senche is a really good pitcher. I was not very high on him, this past few months, but, just digging more into him and, looking past just the surface level stuff, he's got really good stuff against right-handed, hitters. The left stuff is not the best in terms of he's got to figure out a way to get left-handers out, but there's stuff there. I mean, the changeup gets really good, horizontal movement. There's just not enough depth, but the Cardinals can definitely work on him with that. It might be able to get him to a good place there. And then Ty Pete, he's really fun, just a fun player, fun personality. I mean, he's got the flair, and then you add on to a four tool skill set with the potential to become 5 maybe in the future. So he's really fun, really athletic, a kind of guy you can maybe see taking a Joshua Baez type of rise, in the coming years. And then Colton Ledbetter's, I originally it's just like, oh, this guy's just a third throw-in prospect, but the more I've done research, the more I think he's a legit bat that has a chance at probably being at Springfield, might be at Memphis this next year, and has a chance to at least be a 4th outfielder at the major league level. And then you just throw the 2 comp picks in there, and it's 2 picks that are in a good spot. They got up 1 because of the Framber Valdez signing for the Tigers, so just another spot forward, a lot of money that you can play with for your pools that will allow you to maybe take some high schoolers. So it was a really good trade for the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Ledbetter inclusion is interesting too, because it's like the Rays weren't even involved until it sounds like now that they're like offering Williamson, and times like we have no desire to have him. So then they're like, okay, let's call somebody else and get them involved. But like you're saying, I like to do the instant reaction, but asking for trade grades immediately is tough, especially something like this that's going to take years. Like you can only say so much. Like I think you can only grade it from the Mariners side what they get, because they're going to see it right away. Where then the Cardinals side, we're going to have to wait a little bit for that actual grade to come in.
Yeah. TZ, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, first, you said Ledbetter could be like a 4th outfielder. I remember when Newt first came up, that's how he was looked at. So that could be good on the bright side. Um, and then my overall reaction, especially when it first happened, it's kind of the value I thought Donovan would get at the start of the off season. But then there was like all this hype, like nobody was close to the asking price. So it made us think like how high could this return get? And I felt like it was going to be more. So that part was a little underwhelming, but like overall, like I said, it's kind of the value I thought he was going to get initially. Um, I was a little low on Ty Pete when it first happened. I'm starting to like him a little more. And then the 2 comp B picks, like those could be nice. We talked before we started recording, and um, we all agreed those could be like top 20, 20 to 25 prospect. And the second comp B pick is projected to be number 72 overall, which last year was Tanner Franklin, which we all really like, especially Aiden. So um, overall, I think it's a really good trade. One last thing on Durangelo. When I watched him, it's so funny. Like Farmhand sent us a video, and it said he was originally a lefty, and then he switched to righty because his dad was a righty. He was like a righty catcher or something, and it's so weird thinking that he's a lefty because like when I watch him and Farmhands hinted at the lefty stuff isn't as good. It just looks like a little weird when I watch him. It looks like he's like standing up too much, like he's not really like following through. And when I watch the righty stuff, it just looks so much more natural to me. and I'm kind of happy if the Cardinals decide to keep him as a righty. Like for now, I think they said they're open to it, right? For lefty.
Yeah, they might just do it in bullpens. That was kind of the plan, and just kind of on the side, but not maybe in games that much.
Yeah, the Mariners were more set on him staying a righty, but the Cardinals seem more open to still the lefty. But uh, I think the Mariners were onto something that the righty stuff is just looks a lot better, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah. The only reason they would keep him somewhat lefty, and maybe not even in game, is because his routine, going through his warm up routine, he does both sides and kind of already has his whole plan built around going through both sides. So, not trying to mess up that routine or trying to deviate from a plan that's worked for him so far could be pretty useful. And I know, Scott, you might be able to speak to this, like getting off your routine as a pitcher. I'd imagine sometimes that's not good for your game.
Yeah, and one of my students, when they heard about the trade, they know I do this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you got Durangelo. I heard he can throw back-to-back days." I'm like, "Well, maybe arm health wise, yeah." And you hear about training both sides of your body, but like my body after just throwing one side is broken. And then to do that the next day, I don't see that as feasible. So I think it was Kyle Reese that said he was a top 100 prospect with just his right arm. So I think you ride that thing out. But then the lefty cross training stuff could just be good to keep him healthy and balanced on both sides.
Hmm.
Yep. You got anything on that, Aiden? Nope.
Nope.
I
There's
think if
nothing else to add.
you're gonna cut the routine though, like how you guys are talking about, you don't want to mess up the routine. If you're gonna do it, you want to do it sooner than later, right? So you can get used to it.
Yeah, but I just don't see the harm in just continuing to train the left side, even if you don't use it in game.
Hmm.
Like just keeping that warm, especially if that's something he likes to do, is just keep it warm. I don't see why you wouldn't just let him throw a few bullpens, left-handed if he wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the harm in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with
Yep.
farmhands on this one. Sorry, TZ.
What?
I said I'm with
TZ
farmhands on this one. I said I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear what
Okay.
you said.
So, I guess that leads us into the next part of this podcast, which is probably be the longer part. The Cardinals now have a very interesting 26-man roster coming in, or potential 26-man roster coming into spring training. There's a ton of open spots. Competition's going to be rampant, amongst multiple positions. So I guess naturally with Donovan being the middle infield, I feel like we have to go there first, right? So you have Nolan Gorman, who might play into the third base, second base question. Thomas Ajacey, who's going to play into that question. Then obviously J.J. Weatherholt. So how do you guys, I'll start with Scott since he's the guest here. How do you see that whole configuration turning out? And
I think it pretty much puts Weatherholt in the opening or the fast tracked opening day. I think that's what we all believe this is leading towards. I hope that happens, but I'm also going to temper my expectations to the fact that we've seen the rush prospects before. Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, Dylan Carlson. We can keep going on like that. Like he is probably more than likely ready to at least compete. But if he's just showing any bit of struggling, not even service time manipulation questions because he's still a rookie of the year favorite, like there's no harm in just holding him down for just a little bit. And that gives the potential for farmhands you just mentioned to JC. I think he deserves at least a look somewhere as well this year. And if it's the first, month or so of the season that he's getting those everyday reps at second base or something until Weatherholt is ready, I think that it can only be a positive as well. So I think that's going to be a fun thing to see. I think this expectation is still going to be Weatherholt on opening day, but I'm okay with it if it doesn't happen.
Caden?
Oh man, see, like I've heard the manipulation of his service time and like the prospect incentive argument like a lot recently, and honestly, I understand both sides, but I think you're just at a point where it just makes more sense to have JJ Weatherholt start on opening day. Um, I think the bat's going to play well enough already. I think he's going to provide good defense. I'm interested to see how the combination of him and Win are. Um, so I guess that's basically me locking in JJ Weatherholt will be on the team opening day, and he'll likely take over that second base spot where Donovan left, and Gorman's going to get playing time at third, his natural position. Um, but that, in terms of Nolan Gorman, I'm really focusing on his defense this year because obviously at the end of last year defensively there were some questions about him at third base. Now I'm not gonna pick a fight with anybody about you know like we really got to take this into consideration. I think right now it's he kind of had to adjust getting used to third base again. It's a different side of the field. It's a totally different realm over there compared to second base. So I think as the season continues and if the defense isn't up to par, I think you kind of ditch the idea of him playing third base. Maybe you find a different spot for him. I mean, you could always flip Scott and Gorman, or sorry, not Scott. You could always flip Weatherholt and Gorman, or Gorman could DH or whatever you want. So there's a realm of possibilities, but I know a lot of people right now are hesitant about Gorman playing third, but I'm not. I would just ride it out for a while.
TZ?
I'm one of those guys that are hesitant with Gorman at third. I don't really like it. Can't really tell you if I like JJ's there or not because I haven't seen him play defense. I've only seen him swing a bat. So it's kind of hard for me to pick who I would pick at third, for me to say who I'd pick at third, because you could do JJ, Sajacy, Gorman. It sounds like Newt probably won't be ready for opening day, so maybe Sajacy goes to left field for a month or something. I don't know how well he can play that, but these are all MLB athletes, and Sajacy's kind of like our next utility guy, so maybe he can play left for a month or so. DH is open, so Gorman could play DH maybe half the games. Um, there's just so much open on this team. It's just how you want to switch it around. I will say with JJ, now that Donovan's gone, I think it's 99% sure he's going to be there opening day, but I just have that 1% hesitant because of the way Bloom has talked about how he's not going to rush prospects. So that's the only thing that holds me back.
Yeah, I think the conversation is really interesting because I think there's a chance that all three are in the opening day lineup. I think there's a decent chance that Thomas Sajacy is your third baseman or your second baseman, and Nolan Gorman's your DH, and then JJ Weatherholt's somewhere. So I think there's a chance that all three of them get in the lineup opening day. Then at that point, it just comes down to positioning. I think JJ Weatherholt is a better second baseman than third baseman, but I also think that about Thomas Sajacy, and Nolan Gorman's kind of both places. He's actually probably assimilated to second base better than he has third base at this point, but I think if you just give him time at third base, he'll be fine. So I'm not quite sure how it plays out, but I think there's definitely a realistic world where all three of them are in the opening day lineup. I'm actually going to play off a question or a statement TZ had. There's been rumors, between Derek Gould and a couple other people around the Cardinals community that Thomas Sajacy's kind of grabbed an outfield glove, and I think Ollie Marmol might have talked about this at winter warm-up. Scott, I know you were there. Maybe you remember it. Do you guys see Thomas Sajacy grabbing an outfield glove this spring? And if you do you think it's going to be a corner outfield exclusively, or do you think there's some center potential in there?
Well, I actually asked him, it was his first question. I asked him, how many gloves are you planning to bring down to spring training? And I thought that was just like a normal question, and the room kind of like laughed about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't really think that was that funny, knowing because he was a utility guy. But then JC's like, well, I was really kind of just planning to bring one, but with understanding what this offseason looked like, he said he's obviously going to just like what every guy says in this situation. We're going to do whatever it takes to get in the lineup and do that stuff. He didn't say that they've been asked specifically about it, but Marmol was asked, like, are people like JC or so-and-so options for the outfield, and he didn't say no. So I would be surprised if he is not taking reps in the outfield. I think he's a solid if Newt isn't healthy, which we can never know. It seems like the only real remaining options are internal, since the Cardinals seem to keep missing out on those righty bats. So if it ends up being someone like JC, then so be it for that period of time that they need him.
Aiden?
I think I would be fine with JC playing a corner outfield spot. I know you brought up center field. It's just not a good idea to place JC in center field. But I am interested in him playing a corner outfield spot. It's really funny because before I saw any of that reporting, I DM'd Farmhands. I was like, yo, like I have like this brilliant idea, but I need you to like fact check me on some things. And I was like, I swear JC's like played the outfield before, and Farmhands is like, nah, you're tripping, dude. And I was like, oh, well, great. But I was going to like introduce the idea of like maybe he should play left field if Newbar's hurt. And then Farmhands was like, well, you're like a couple hours late because that's been said. And I was like, great, of course. But you brought up JC playing second, Gorman playing third, maybe that was backwards. Maybe it was JJ playing second, JC third, Gorman DHing.
Correct.
I find that really interesting because I would be totally fine with Brian Torres making the roster and taking at bats in left field. Like, I don't think that's a crazy statement because he had a really good AAA year last year. He's on the 40-man roster, so it's not like you're wasting any kind of service time because he's already, 28, something like that?
Yeah.
So he seems to have, like, a fine bat. You need a right-handed outfielder, so I
He's
think
not
it's
right-handed.
Yeah, well, they still need
not.
they'll still need a right-handed outfielder.
I was thinking
Yeah.
he was right. Maybe he was somebody else.
He's hit right-handers really well though down at AAA.
Yeah, maybe it was who was the guy from the Royals we got? Vasquez?
Or no.
Velasquez.
Yeah, Vasquez.
Velasquez.
And then we also have Ramos, who we
Yeah.
just claimed yesterday.
I was probably thinking about them, but
What
still,
about
like,
Jose Fermin?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Jose
it's,
Fermin was sneaky good last
I
year.
think it's a conversation to be had for sure.
And I'm not
He's
saying he's ready, but you just added another righty outfield bat to the 40-man.
Yeah, he seems more utility than JC does, honestly.
Ramos.
I was talking,
No,
Joshua
Fermin.
Baez.
Oh.
What about Baez? What?
You-
Did I just miss a whole?
He's a righty bat. You just added to the 40-man.
Yeah, he's not
but
ready
you-
yet,
you
though.
don't-
Yeah,
you
he's
don't
lefty.
skip- You don't skip AAA.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he's not ready. I'm just saying. What if he pops off in spring? You never know.
No, we're not doing what they did to Jordan Walker. I have enough PTSD from that.
And like I said, Bloom said he's not rushing prospects, so that won't happen. We're just throwing stuff out there.
But one thing, Jose Fermin's an interesting name because unlike Thomas JC, Jose Fermin has played multiple outfield positions last year at Memphis. He's got that outfield experience. He's not totally new out there. He can play some third, play some second. He actually, if you look back at his stats and even his underlying stats at the major league level last year, he was pretty solid, and I think he had an OPS over 800 or something like that. He was really solid, so I wouldn't mind him making the roster, but I guess we'll go into. I had a poll earlier today. Who's that 26th man on the roster? And I basically gave you three options. Maybe other is a fourth option that I put on there, but it's basically between Brian Torres, Brian Ramos, who the Cardinals just claimed from the White Sox. He's only 23 years old, third base, outfield type of person, and then Nelson Velasquez, who they signed to a minor league deal and is a non-roster invite. Had a really bad 2024 season, but that 2023 season he popped off for like 17 home runs in like 56 games or something like that, like 35% above league average. So We'll start with Scott here. Who do you think out of that group, or is there someone else in that type of group that's going to make the roster?
I think as of a few days ago, I thought it was going to be Nelson Velasquez, but then you bring in the fact that he's a non-roster invitee, where then Brian Ramos got a 40-man spot. Torres has a 40-man spot. I'm with Aiden there that Torres could be, even though he is not right-handed, as we all wish he would be. I don't see the problem with him being that 26th man. He is 28. He's one of the oldest, I think, on the roster. Definitely in the lineup, I think, just behind Newt, or even he's actually older than Newt. He's the oldest besides Joel Pozo. So yeah, I think there's no harm with making him the 26th man, especially when you have like options and stuff built in. So I'm going to lean, after thinking it was going to be Nelson Velasquez for that righty power bat, I'm going to start leaning towards Brian Torres instead.
Aiden?
I think it's totally possible the Cardinals go back out in the free agent market and still sign someone. So
Yeah.
I think if they didn't do that, Brian Torres is likely going to be the guy who's added onto the 26-man roster. But I just think somebody could still be signed. I don't know who that would be. But
Grichuk.
I think it's in the Grichuk. I've seen McCutcheon's name thrown around.
I'd like that.
So
Tommy Pham?
sure, like I'm just saying, like there are a lot of names out there still that I'm sure Hein Bloom will check in with. So.
TZ, you want Tommy Pham?
Not anymore. I think that last time was the last hoorah.
Oh, remember when he hit that grand slam, and was it his first game?
Yeah,
You're going to win it.
that was about his only hit.
yeah, he didn't really do much after that, did he?
No, the
Okay.
team was really bad with him.
Yeah. Who do you think after? Out of those three, or do you have another name?
Well, I have Torres making the roster, and then I have Fermin, and then a catcher, and then it's like, who's the next guy? And that's where I'm kind of hitting a wall. Like, there's so many options, like Brian Ramos, Prieto maybe, maybe Nathan Church just makes it. So, I don't know. I'll just say it's probably like Nathan Church right now, just so they feel like they have like a solid backup center fielder. But I'd like to see Torres take some of those reps. We talked about him, how we think he could play some center field occasionally, but
Yeah.
it's all that spot's just gonna come down the spring.
Yeah. The thing that really intrigues me about Torres is personally, I mean, he's literally played every single position on the diamond, one game or more in his career. He pitched once, and then he's played catcher. He played catcher mostly in the American Association with the Milwaukee Milkmen, so that was kind of interesting. Then he back in his early days, he was kind of a third baseman, second baseman, played some first base in the Giants system. And then, I mean, in the Cardinal system, he's played all three outfield positions and some second base. So this is a guy who has experience at literally every single position and can, as a 26 man, a guy who can pick up a glove literally anywhere is super valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he have a super impressive on base percentage?
Yeah.
Wasn't it nuts?
Was it? I'd have to look it up. It was in the high fours. It was
I was gonna say
446 or something
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
It was 400 something. Because I remember he walked a ton.
441.
And didn't strike out.
Yeah.
441. Yeah.
And then, if you think about it, he's basically Lars Nootbaar, just with less power.
Yeah. Better contact abilities.
Yeah.
And still 26 bases.
Yeah.
Which Nootbaar could steal 20 bases if he would just stay on the field.
So he's Brendan Donovan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that he has some games under at catcher because I mean, Donovan's gone. He was our emergency catcher. So
We'll have 3
now
catchers on
maybe
the
that's
roster. I don't
Torres.
think we have to worry about that.
But
Oh,
shout
you
out
think
to the
three?
Milwaukee Milkmen because they have $5 tickets that also have 2 free beers in the bleachers on certain days in June. So shout out Milwaukee Milkmen. If anyone in the anyone in the area, pick me up on the way.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yep.
Milwaukee guy, huh?
Close enough. For $5 tickets, I'm in.
Yeah. So, I guess that I kind of hinted at it there. How do you guys think the catcher situation plays out? Obviously, you have really 4 guys in contention. Do you think they carry 3 guys? Do you think they carry 2 guys? And if they only carry 2 guys, how do they split the catching time at Memphis? Because it gets really interesting at that point.
That's where I think maybe Joel Pozo is the odd man out, and Jimmy Crooks does make the team as another catcher. So then I think they're really going to push the Ivan Herrera starting catcher as much as they can, and I think they should. The value that he could provide if he could just. I made the point earlier today on Redbird Rundown that he doesn't have Eric Fetty and Miles Michaelis pitching, so maybe that the pitchers that are pitching this year will have some cognizant ability to hold a runner on base as well as the surgery to the arm should help some stuff out. So if he's your catcher 3 to 4 times a week, and then you got Jimmy Crooks learning behind it, and then Pedro Pajes is there as well. I don't know. I think that the DH spot is going to end up being between Gorman and Herrera, depending on what Herrera's health is going to be like and what he can do. And then that will do more to determine what the catcher situation is going to be with Crooks or if it's going to be with Pozo. Because if Pajes is going to be starting every day, then I would say that Crooks would probably crack the roster over Pozo.
Yeah. Aiden?
This catching situation is just it's a mess. Like,
Yeah.
because from like my standpoint, Paje shouldn't be getting any kind of playing time over Jimmy Crooks, just because you're trying to figure out what you have with him, and obviously you don't want to take time away from Bernal possibly being at AAA. You don't want to split time between Bernal and Crooks at AAA, right? Like that just doesn't make sense in my mind. I mean, it's possible. Like, I hate to say this, but Pozo gets cut at some point early in the season to give Jimmy Crooks a spot on the team. I mean, it just honestly, like, and this is nothing against Pajes, but he probably should have been moved this offseason. Like, that would have just fixed the situation easily.
Yeah.
But as it stands right now, you'll probably see Herrera catching, and I honestly hope he catches for the whole season. Like, I'd like to see his arm strength there and, you know, his ability to throw out base runners, because outside of that, like, he's not a bad catcher. Like,
Yeah.
he's fine at framing. He's actually been pretty good at blocking. And his bat provides immense value for you, catcher, obviously.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Pajes right now has to back up because, I mean, it just makes sense. To me, Jimmy Crooks should be the backup behind Pajes rather than Pozo. And it's, like I said, it's nothing against Pozo. It's just what I feel what's best for how the organization is ran in 2026. So that's probably how it's going to be, but we'll see. There's, like the theme of this season, there's a realm of possibilities.
Yeah. TZ.
We were talking about the 26-man spot, and I just don't know if they're gonna use it for a catcher again. Like, there's so many ways you could go with this catching situation. You could start, like, they want to start Herrera, and then it's like, what do you want to do after that? Do you want to have Crooks play almost 50% of the games behind Herrera, catch 40 to 50% of the games? Maybe Bernal. Do you think that's a wasted spot and you want to see them start at least 50% or more games? So you have Pajes just back up, Crooks or Bernal's in AAA, and one's at AA again. I just don't know what they're gonna do. Pozo, I think, is a guy he could be that 26 man. To be honest, like he's a righty. Maybe you just use him as a bench bat. Like he almost never starts at catcher, and he's literally just your Luke and Baker type role. Comes in late in games and pinch hits for a lefty. Um, there's just so many ways this roster could go. I don't know what they're gonna do with that spot. And like you guys even talked about, still acquiring another like outfield bat, like a righty outfield bat. Maybe Pajes or Pozo get traded for one of those guys. I mean, it's not going to be a high end bat, for one of those two, but maybe they can
Yeah,
get somebody.
yeah. It's the catching situation is just they've kind of put themselves in a box here, but I think they kind of did it intentionally just a little bit because I think they're confident that Herrera can do it, but they're not absolute. And that's why you see them holding on to like a Pajes. If they thought for sure that Herrera could stick behind the plate, I think you would have seen the catcher move this offseason. But I feel like they're like, we're like 60 to 75% sure this is going to work. But there's definitely that 25% where he's going to have to DH or play a little bit of left field or outfield or first base, and not be able to stick behind the plate. And if that happens, they want to be able to have that, that Pajes and Crooks, battery back there.
See, that makes sense to me. Like that makes a lot of sense in my mind.
Because I mean, we can act like they want Herrera to be back there, but we all don't know if his health's gonna stay up. I mean, he obviously had the leg injuries, right, coming last year, and then is the arm gonna be better, or is it something more than just it was injured?
Well, and you both mentioned it, is that Bernal needs to play every day too. There's no need for him to stick in Double A, I don't think, at this point. So where does that leave Crooks? And that's where, if it's really the defense that they're valuing with Pajes, I think isn't Crooks valued for his defense as well? That I get he's an unproven rookie, but so is basically the entire lineup and roster. So what does it really matter? That's where I was all about Pajes getting. Even if it's just Pajes goes on to AAA or whatever, like if they value him that much, fine. But Crooks doesn't need to be taking time away from Bernal or splitting that time, like you guys said. Where if they think that Bernal is the real deal, let's go ahead and get Crooks up there, see what he can do at the major league level before you go casting him away for nothing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Crooks makes it and Bernal's in AAA with Pajes backing him up in Memphis.
That'd be crazy. I just don't see a way that Pajes is not on the major league roster. To be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I see. I just don't see a role for him if they have Crooks or Bernal. If you want to have one of them, you can't really see a role for Pajes to make it. You can still see that role for Pozo, though.
I think if Herrera was throwing by now, then maybe that would have been a real conversation of moving Pajes. But like Farmhand said, it's at least having somebody there just in case that's not Pozo, because Pozo's not really that catcher either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, boys. Let's move on to probably the most competitive area of the roster in terms of the spring battles that I'll be watching, and that's the starting rotation. It feels like there's three guys locked in, in Dustin May, Matthew Liberatore, and Michael McGreevy. And then the last two, maybe three spots are really, up for battle between, 4, maybe even 5 guys. So that'll be Kyle Leahy, Dobbins, obviously, friend of the podcast, by the way, Hunter Dobbins, Richard Fitz, Andre Palante, and maybe you could throw TZ's favorite prospect in there at the end as a long shot in Quinn Matthews. So we'll start with Scott again, since of course the guest goes first every time. We'll start with Scott here in terms of how do you think that plays out, and do you think they go with a 6-man, a 5-man, and do you think they put the other person in the bullpen, or do you think that's someone's at AAA?
as excited as I am to always watch the new prospects and everything, like to watch Weatherholt, I'm really excited to watch the pitchers. I spring training, it's, when do you look at stats? When do you look at, the eye test and stuff like that? I think pitchers, you do learn a lot of actual information during spring training games and things like that, because it's hard to not go 100% as a pitcher in a game. So, like you said, I think there's only 3 locked with Liberatore, McGreevy, and May. I wrote about having a potential 6-man rotation earlier in the offseason, and that was before receiving Fitz and Dobbins already. So I think a 6-man rotation would be a potential solution. It's not really one that they've talked about, but I think they really want Leahy to get the opportunity to be the starter. I think he deserves that opportunity as well. Palante, I'm excited, and this is the other reason didn't mean to say I'm excited about Palante. I'm excited about the names being included, because competition can only breed, something's going to happen from the competition, whether it's people overperforming, underperforming. Injuries are probably going to happen, but I think Palante, they want him to stay at the major league roster as well, and then that leaves Fitz and Dobbins. I think one might be the swingman and the other one might be in AAA as that depth that's ready to come in. And I'm not going to give up on Quinn Matthews at either. I don't think he has the opportunity to crack out of opening day, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got starts in St. Louis this year. So right now I think it's the 5 that were already kind of in St. Louis: Liberatore, McGreevy, Palante, May, and Leahy, with Fitz and Dobbins, one going to the bullpen and one going AAA.
We just had Dobbins on, and I don't think he goes to the bullpen. He said his body doesn't work well for it, and it sounds like even if that wasn't true, like his head's not in it. So if your head's not in it, then you're not gonna do well there, So
Yeah.
I could see him down in Memphis to start the season, especially coming off that injury, just trying to get comfortable. Shit, but
Yeah. Aiden?
Yeah. So I think Hunter Dobbins, like you guys have said, is going to make the rotation, and there's no bias in that. I promise you. Like I really think he's going to make the starting rotation. I'm going to get booed for this by a lot of people probably. I hope Palante makes the rotation. There were many times last year where I was very aggravated with him, like everybody else, but like Kareem has said, like his ability to suppress damage is so impressive that I just don't think you can give up the idea of him being a starter yet. His ability to throw breaking balls for strikes consistently was just really awful last year, like nothing we've ever seen before, and that's why you saw his fastball value drop heavily, right? It when hitters can realize you're not throwing strikes with breaking balls, when you have a bad fastball like Palante has, hitters are going to sit on it and they're going to destroy it. And that's what happened, really. They understood that he can't throw a strike with breaking balls, so they're going to sit fastball and crush it. And I love the idea of him being able to suppress damage, but I think if in spring he shows that he's not able to throw those breaking balls for strikes still, and the fastball's still getting crushed, walks are still heavy, I think he should start in the bullpen with the idea that he could maybe come in as a starter later in the year. And then maybe a guy like Fitz makes the rotation. Maybe Farmhands Boyd, Leahy makes the rotation. But as much as I was getting frustrated with Palante, I do think he should be given the upper hand with being a starter.
Mr. TZ, what's you kind of put your little Hunter Dobbins doesn't want to be in the bullpen thing, so how does that lead into your rotation predictions here?
if I had to predict right now, I think I would say Leahy starts because they seem like they really want him to start. And then one of Palante or Fitz, and the other one goes to the bullpen as that like Steven Matz type role last year. I think that's what their role would be. And then so Dobbins, Quinn Matthews, they're both in AAA. And maybe Dobbins makes it up, but like I said, maybe he just needs he may need time to get comfortable on the mound and stuff. ACLs aren't really that big of aren't a joke, you know. Those are bad injuries. Ronald Acuna, he tore his ACL, came back, did not look good his first year. I mean, he wasn't terrible, but he
Yeah.
was not Acuna. And then the next season, he won MVP. It just took him a year to get comfortable, and he even talked about how he was a little nervous on it and stuff like that. So maybe Dobbins. I think Dobbins will need some time, and that's fine. He said he feels good, and like that. That's a good thing, and I'm glad he's in that mindset. That's a great first step. But yeah, that's kind of how I see my rotation working out. The bullpen's more complicated than me. But what about
Yeah.
you, Scott? Who you got starting? Did you say?
Scott said, yeah.
I did. I think they should do 6-man rotation though, because I think there's 6 available starters. But farmhands, what do you got?
Everybody knows here that I'm the biggest Kyle Leahy fan on the internet. So, of course, Kyle Leahy's going to be in my starting rotation to start the year. Now, whether he's going to be on some sort of 120, 130 innings limit and doesn't make it all the way through the year, I mean, I could definitely see that since he only threw 90, 80 something innings last year. So it's like, is he going to make it through the full season? Is he not? And then I think Andre Palante makes the rotation. I think, 2025 was just a blip on the radar, and he's actually much better than he showed there. He's obviously, the first thing he said in his interview was, I got to land my breaking balls more for strikes, just like Aiden said. So he obviously understands what he has to do. He's obviously adding that change up, which is going to be really interesting, the kick change. I think he makes the rotation. And then I think they go with the 6-man to start the year. They did it last year, and they got really good health. So I think you see a guy like Richard Fitz, making that starting rotation, at least for a bit. And then I think Hunter Dobbins will just kind of start in AAA. Maybe he's even on the IL at that point because, as much as he's already on the mound kind of pitching, the stuff that's going to take the longest for him is going to be the fielding, right? Jumping off the mound and really making those hard, those hard stabs in the ground to really twist and throw a ball. That can be pretty hard on the knee area. So I think the fielding and the PFPs are going to be the most, the longest thing that takes for him, and until he can prove to do those, pain free or whatever, that will be the one thing that will hold him back at AAA until he's ready. And I guess the Cardinals aren't going to get nearly as lucky with their health this year as they did last year, and if they do, I mean, whoever the medical staff is in the St. Louis Cardinals should get some kind of award. So, so yeah, that's how I think it plays out. We'll go into our last really brief conversation here.
Can I say one thing real quick
Yeah.
about the 6-man rotation?
Uh-huh.
What is the number one question asked for to a manager after games? Like, why didn't you do this? Like, what's the number one thing? Do you guys know?
Why did you play a certain bullpen piece?
Yes. And their answer is always what?
He wasn't available today.
The bullpens wore out. So
Yeah.
I don't like the 6-man rotation because then you take away another one of those options, and then you hear that even more. Like the start of the season is a little more broke up, I think, if I recall right. That's usually
Yeah.
how the start of the season goes, so maybe you can start that way. But once you start getting into the season, you can't do that. At least I don't
Yeah.
think you can because, like I said, the bullpen's gassed, and it's going to be even more gassed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's obviously the big downside to a 6-man rotation. I mean, the upside is you keep your starters healthy. But the downside is you wear out a Kyle Leahy like they did last year, where they ran him into the ground and he had a really bad, was it June, May? I can't remember which month he was like pretty bad, but then he bounced back. But yeah, we'll go into the last conversation here. I think this is a really interesting one. We'll go fast because it's not the most interesting one, but it's one of the more interesting ones to me, and that's the second left-handed option. The Cardinals obviously brought in Jared Schuster. They got Justin Brule. They got Nick Rackett, those two are on the 40-man, and then they got my favorite left-handed pitcher in the system, Packy Naughton, just because the name's awesome. The aura around him's awesome, and he's a real estate agent, so that's fun. So, Scott, which one of those guys do you think makes the roster behind Jojo Romero, who I assume is still going to be here?
Yeah, and I think that's really the reason that Jojo Romero is still here is because of those guys that you just listed. Dude, I don't know. Flip a coin, however many coins it takes to go through those options. I like Packy Naughton too. Why not? He was fine when he made it up. I mean, they actually committed to like paying money or paying. They traded for Brule, so I mean he was an actual target. So maybe that puts him up there. Anthony Banda was designated for assignment today by the Dodgers. Maybe they could get rid of Ramos' 40-man roster spot that he got for no reason anyway, and get Banda up here. But I truly don't know. Whoever's healthy at the end of spring training has the first, and has a left arm is the first one.
Mr. Aiden.
I hope they give Packy Naughton the opportunity to be that first guy, just because obviously the injury histories sucked. But he was good in 2023, and I thought the pitch shapes were good, and the results were there. So obviously that can change, being out for, like 2 years now?
2 years, yeah.
So obviously that can change, but I do think he deserves the opportunity. I will say that. So I'm going to go with Packy Naughton.
I think he'll get it, but being out 2 years is kind of rough to make the opening day roster, especially when you're not on the 40-man. That makes it even a little more harder. So I think that Justin, how do you say, Brule?
Brule.
I think he gets it.
Yeah. I think it's Nick Rackett, guys. I think that they've stuck with him through thick or thin, right?
True.
True. Every time they sign someone, every time they trade someone and they get someone on the 40-man, everybody's like, who's going to get DFA'd? Who's going to get DFA'd? Every time they claim someone, it's like, it's going to be Nick Rackett. And every time it's been someone besides Nick Rackett. So it's like, I think they just have a lot of trust in the guy for some reason. And they're going to let him play. And he's going to be your second left-handed pitcher, and he might have like a 2 ERA in July, and we might trade him. So,
Sure.
It's Nick Rackett. So that's my prediction. Well, I think that's all we got on the agenda. I guess we could throw out a quick WBC question. Are you surprised at any of the players that went, and does that affect any of their springs in terms of how you view their chances at making an opening day roster or being in a certain position, such as like Herrera catching?
I wish Herrera was catching in the WBC so that he could get some of that live game opportunity, but that doesn't sound like he's going to. But I'm excited to watch them play in games that matter compared to the other ones. But that's where also I'm going to get to watch the Cardinals pitchers actually pitch in spring training, because I don't think really anybody besides O'Brien on the pitcher side went.
Yeah, Graceffo.
Oh, and Graceffo, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Aiden, anything on the WBC side?
I wasn't surprised by anything, just because I feel like anybody could go at any time. But I will be watching Italy just because JC and Graceffo are on Team Italy. So I've always liked Gordon. Obviously, the results haven't been there, but I do like him. There are things that need to be worked on, but I'm going to keep my eye out on him and obviously Sajasi, because he might be our starting left fielder in a month. So,
yeah, I do wonder how him going to the WBC affects his chances at being an outfielder, right? Like being out for half a spring training. Like, how does that change your training routine, and how does that change, his chances of assimilating to the outfield better? That's a real question for me.
Yeah.
You guys aren't even talking about the most important team that affects this Cardinals' future.
Which
You
one?
don't even know. You don't even know what team I'm thinking of, do you? Puerto Rico.
Oh, you're a Yachty guy.
Watching the manager. Seeing how Yachty manages over there. That's the future. That's what I'll be watching. And watching Nolan Arenado to see if he can bounce back. I, I have no idea why Nolan Arenado's on Team Puerto Rico, but we'll see how that goes. Last time he played in this, he blamed all his declines on the WBC, so I don't know if this is going to go well or not, but we'll see how it goes for him. Maybe he'll like playing for Yachty, a real manager.
He blames all his downfalls in the WBC and immediately goes back in the next version.
Yeah. Maybe you have the flip effect. You never know.
Oh, yeah. I think watching Yachty and Albert's going to be interesting. Manage their two teams. Obviously, Albert's got the much superior team since Puerto Rico decided to not let any of their guys have insurance. So it's a shell of what that team should be, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think Herrera will be interesting because I don't think he'll catch. But it'll be fun to watch Bernal be the main catcher for Panama. Luis Gastelum is for Team Mexico, and they're in the same pool as the United States. And I think it would be really cool to watch Luis Gastelum strike out like Bobby Witt, Aaron Judge, and I don't even who else would be third in that lineup. That'd be fun to watch. And there's just a lot of prospects. Israel's got Noah Menlinger and Zach Levinson. So, I mean, there'll be someone to watch every night from the Cardinals organization that will. I love the WBC, and besides baseball, one of my favorite things is international competitions. I love watching international competitions. The Olympics are obviously on right now, and then basically going from the Olympics straight into the WBC is a real treat. So,
is Gallegos gonna pitch for Mexico? Do you know?
What?
Giovanni Gallegos, is he pitching
No, he
for
is
Mexico?
not. He is not pitching for Mexico.
He usually does.
No, not this year. I don't even know where's he been at. I don't even know if he's still pitching or not.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Sweden's not in this, right?
No.
Okay. Whew. No. Sorry, I thought we were going to get into some trouble with the Swedish team, like in their.
I did have a quick Cardinals question though.
What?
Who do you guys think is closing games? Like we didn't even talk about that.
According to Fangraphs, they have Riley O'Brien as the leader with 6.
Yeah, that's fine too.
And then that's where I think Swanson's going to be Leahy this year. And JoJo. I mean, there's also not going to be a lot of saves to go around. But JoJo's going to be that lefty. JoJo's your lefty, so he's probably not going to be able to use to be a closer. So I think it's going to be Riley O'Brien with Swanson filling in at the other big spots in the game.
Yep.
Wasn't
Neo
the closer for AAA last year?
Yeah, mainly.
You think he could
pretty
close
good.
some?
He's got to show more. He's got to show more at the major league level before he gets anything near that opportunity.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? I don't think we had anything else on the docket here, so we'll finish it out. Everybody, thank you for watching this episode of Redbirds on the Arch. Make sure to go follow Scott at Mr. Plastastic. What is it? Just
17.
Plastastic? What's the last? Is there digits
17.
on the end? 17. Mr. Plastastic 17. Cardinals on My Time. Viva Alberto's podcast. And Redbird Rundown. So that's where you can find Scott. Oh, and Redbird Rants writing. So Scott's a triple threat, quadruple threat here on the media side for the Cardinals. So just go to a website and there's about a 90% chance that Scott's on it. So
that's about right.
Yeah. We'll see you folks next time on Redbirds on the Arch.
Thank you for joining today's episode. If you like what you heard and you're listening to us on Spotify, make sure you follow us there on Spotify. If you want to keep up with when episodes come out, or if you want to keep up with live content, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Redbirds on Arch.
If you're interested in our personal content, you can follow me, Tyler Gettinger, at Redbird Farmhand. You can follow Tyler Zumwalt, TZ, at Zumwalt_Tyler, or you can follow Aiden over there at Aiden Gray 8.